Hi guys, welcome back to Alamat Short Stories, where we narrate short stories submitted or researched by our team to share with you all. For this week, we will be talking about a terrifying personal experience by the author named Izzy888. This tale is called The Nanny Tried to Warn Me, House Sitting Gone Horribly Wrong. This happened a few years back in a mountain suburb of Vancouver, Canada. This really happened, although I wish it didn't. My aunt had just purchased a beautiful old home in this neighborhood, but being a business executive, she often traveled around Canada for work purposes. Her two children were at their dad's home for an extended period, and their live-in nanny went back to her home abroad for a much-deserved break. Therefore, my aunt asked if I could homesit, as the large home would be unoccupied and she felt uncomfortable with that. I agreed to this, thinking it would be a small weekend break where I could lounge around and raid their fridge. The drive was about 1.5 hours from my place, and I was generally eager about the whole thing. The nanny, who we were all very close with, and who was like a second mother to my younger cousins, warned me before leaving that she thought the house was haunted. The country where she was from, the Philippines, has strong beliefs about the paranormal and ghosts, and said that she routinely saw a woman dressed in Victorian clothing by the outdoor pool. She told me to do some special prayers for protection. Being a believer in the paranormal and experiencing things myself before in unrelated incidents, I took her seriously and was a bit frightened, but I figured at this point it was too late to back out. She left, and I settled into the house. The first few hours were pretty uneventful. I just watched some TV, browsed the internet, and read some of their tabletop magazines. Eventually, I sort of forgot about what she had said about the haunting. I ate dinner, took a brief swim, and then things started getting a bit weird. I had that familiar feeling of being watched that most people report when speaking of the paranormal. I tried my best to shrug it off and realized that I had forgotten an extra towel outside on one of the patio chairs back when I was swimming. When I went outdoors, the towel was floating in the middle of the pool. This freaked me out a bit, but I forced myself to calm down and watch TV, hoping it would distract me. I was watching reruns of my so-called life when the faucet in the kitchen began to pour water. I went to turn it off and noticed that a single plate lay in the center of the floor face down. I put it away and nervously went back to the TV room. But I sat in the corner with my back facing the wall because I was growing scared and didn't want something to sneak behind me like a horror movie. From where I was sitting, you could see the outdoor pool through a glass wall or screen. After about half an hour, I noticed the water was sort of bubbling. I went close to the glass door to investigate and saw that it appeared the water was moving as if someone was doing quick laps back and forth. Yet there were no audible splash sounds to accompany the movement. I also got an overwhelming sense of dread and goosebumps formed on my arms and on the back of my neck. I turned off the TV, made sure all the doors were locked, and sprinted upstairs to the master bedroom. I curled up under the covers and started reciting the prayers the nanny taught me before she had left. I must have stayed awake for what felt like hours, long after the sun had set, trying to will myself to sleep. I had left the lights in the room on because I was frightened. As I closed my eyes and tried to calm down, I heard a piercing scream that seemed to come from the outside of the window. The light then turned off, leaving me in darkness. At this point, I felt like I was having a heart attack, but I was too scared to move. All of a sudden, the locked windows started to flap open and shut forcefully. They were the ones that had panes that opened outwards, if that makes sense. Also, at the same time, the thick, heavy wooden doors in the hallway leading to the bedroom began to do the same, causing loud banging, and I felt as if the whole house was shaking. These doors would not have been moved by a strong gust of wind, only by a forceful movement of a hand. Also, the opening or closing of the doors and windows were all synchronized perfectly. After about 5 minutes, everything stopped. The silence was almost deafening, and all I could hear was my stifled but heavy breathing. And then I heard a sound that sent shivers down my whole body. The glass screen door on the first floor slid open and then shut. There were slow, methodical steps coming through the TV room and then up the stairs. It was as if each step were taken with intention, loud enough to knowingly scare me. Then the first door opened in the hallway, then the other, and finally, the bedroom door creaked open. I shut my eyes tightly and listened to the footsteps as they approached the side of my bed. I felt as if a pair of eyes were piercing through the covers at me. Then the footsteps moved to the foot of my bed. Minutes passed, and the presence and air in the room was so heavy. Not one sound could be heard outside, not even the crickets that often frequented my aunt's backyard. Then all of the covers flew off of me, and I heard a loud cackle, like one might hear from a cartoon witch. I bolted up, packed my stuff, and left the house as quickly as I could, only stopping to lock the front door as the keys slipped over and over in my shaking hands. I left the screen door unlocked, but figured no one could get into it anyways, as there was a big fence surrounding the backyard. And frankly, in that moment, it was not my top priority. I checked into the closest hotel, too scared to drive home, and spent a sleepless night there, calling my aunt in the morning. She seemed confused when I told her what had happened, as she said she had never felt any ghostly presence there, but the nanny had mentioned it a few times. I guess she never really took it seriously. She lived in the house for a couple of years after that and ended up relocating to Shanghai with her children for business purposes. We didn't really speak of it much, but when I told my mother, she said that she had always felt creeped out there, and told me that once, while she was swimming, she felt as if someone had tried to push her head underwater. After that day, I always avoided that house, coming over only when necessary and when others were inside. What do you guys think of this week's short story? If you're enjoying the stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this to your friends and family. If you have short stories you would want me to narrate, please send them over at mralamatph@gmail.com. Salamat guys, and see you in the next one.